各位代表，
Esteemed deputies,
现在
now,
我代表国务院
on behalf of the State
向
Council,
大会报告
I'll
政
report
府
to
工
you
作，
on the work of the government
请予审
for
议，
your deliberation and approval,
并请全国政
and I
协
invite comments
各位委
on my
员
report
提出意见。
from the members of the National Committee of the CPPCC.
2015年
First,
工作回顾，
let me start with a review of the work we did in 2015.
我国发展面临
In the past
多
year,
重困难。
China has encountered many difficulties and challenges in its
在以
development.
习近平同志为总书记的
However, under the leadership of the Central Committee
坚强领
of
导
the
下，
CPC headed by General
全
Secretary
国
Xi
各
Jinping,
族人民
all the
以
people
坚定
of
的信
China
心和非凡的勇气，
have worked to overcome obstacles and have pressed
开拓
ahead
进取，
with a pioneering
经济
spirit.
社会发展
As a result,
稳中有进，
progress is being achieved and
稳中
stability
有好，
ensured in economic
完成
and
了
social development.
全年
The main tasks
主要
and targets for
目
the
标
year
任务
have been fulfilled,
改革开放和社会主义现代化
and
建
major
设
achievements
取得
have been made
新
in
的
reform,
重
opening
大
up,
成就。
and socialist modernization.
经济运行保持在合理区
The
间，
economy operated within
国
an
内生产总
appropriate
值
range.
达到67.7万亿元，
GDP reached
增长
67.7 trillion yuan,
6.9%，
representing an increase
在世
of
界主要
6.9%
经
over
济
the
体中
previous year,
位
a
居
growth
前列，
rate faster than that of most
粮
other
食产
major
量
economies.
实现12年
Food
增
crop production increased for the
居民
12th
消
year
费
in
价
a
格
row.
涨幅
Consumer prices grew
保持
slowly.
较低水平，特别是就业形势
Of
总体
particular
稳定，
note,
城镇新增
the
就业
employment situation overall remained stable,
1312
with
万人，
13.12 million new
全
urban
年
jobs
预期
created
目标，
over the course of
成
the year,
为
surpassing
经
the
济
year's
运行
target
的一大亮
and
点。
becoming an economic highlight.
结构调整取得积极进展，
Encouraging progress was made in
在国
structural
内生产
adjustment.
总值中的
The
比
service
重
sector as a proportion
上
of
升到
GDP rose
50.5%，
to
首次
50.5%,
占据半壁江山。
accounting for more than half
消费
for the first time.
对经济增
The
长的贡
contribution of
献
consumption
达
toward
到
economic growth reached 66.4%.
高技术产业和装备制造业增速
High-tech industries and
快于
equipment manufacturing grew
一般工业。
faster than other industries.
单位国内生产总值能耗下
Energy
降
consumption per unit of GDP
5.6%，
fell by 5.6%.
发展新动能加快成长。
New
创
driving
新驱动
forces
发
for
展战
development
略
grew
持
rapidly.
续推进。互联网与各行
Further
业
progress was made in
加速
implementing the strategy of
新兴
innovation-driven
产业
development.
快
The
速成长
penetration of the
大众
internet
创业
into all industries
万众
picked
创
up
新
pace, and emerging
蓬勃发
industries
展
grew rapidly.
全年
Business startups
新登记
innovations by the general
注册
public
企业
flourished,
增长
the number of newly
21.6%
registered businesses rising by 21.6% in 2015, or an average of 12,000 new businesses per day.
对稳就业
New
促升
driving
级
forces played
发挥
a
了
major role in
突出
keeping
作用，
employment stable
正在
and
推
pushing
动
ahead industry
经济社会
upgrading,
发生
and are
深
now
刻
driving profound economic and social change in China.
人民生活进一步改善，
Living
全国居
standards
民人均
improved.
可支配收入实际增长
Personal per capita disposable income increased by 7.4% in real
经
terms,
济增速，
overtaking the growth rate of the economy.
居民储蓄存款余额
By the end of
增长
last year, personal savings deposits had risen by
新增
8.5%,
4万多亿
an
元，
increase of more than
又解
4
决了
trillion yuan.
6434
In
万
rural
农
areas,
村人口
another
饮水安全问题
64.34 million people gained access to safe drinking water, and greater alleviation efforts reduced the number of people living in poverty by
科技领域和其
14.42
创新成
million.
果达到
A number
国
of
际
world-class
先进水平
innovations were made in
第
science and
三代核电
technology.
技术取得重大
Major headway was made in the development
国产
of third-generation nuclear power
大型客
technology.
机
China
总
self-developed
装下线，
C919
获得
large jetliner rolled
诺
off
贝
the
尔生理
assembly
学
line,
或医
and
学
Tuyoyo was awarded the
对我
Nobel
国发展
Prize
取
for
得的成就
physiology and
全国
on
各族人
medicine.
民倍感振奋和自豪。
These achievements in China's development are a source of pride and motivation for our people did not come easily.
回顾过去一年，成绩来之不易。这些成绩是在极为复杂严峻的国际环境
These achievements were made in the context of an extremely complicated and challenging international
6
environment.
年来最低。
Last year, world economic growth fell to its lowest rate in 6 years.
大宗商品
Growth in
价格
international trade
深度下
slowed,
跌
commodity
国
prices
际金
plummeted,
融市场
and there was
震荡加
growing
剧
volatility
对
in the
我国经
global
济
financial
造成
market.
直接冲击。
All this had a direct impact on China's
这些
economy.
成绩是在国内深层次矛盾凸显。
These achievements were made at the same time as deep-seated domestic problems were becoming prominent and downward pressure on the economy was
经
mounting.
济工作
While dealing with the slowdown in economic growth, making difficult structural adjustments, and absorbing the effects of previous economic stimulus policies,
趋利避害
China was also confronted with many difficult problems and choices in the running
是在
of the
我国经
economy.
济总量超过60万亿元的高基础
Finally, they were made at a time when China's economic output had
国内
exceeded
生产总值
60
每
trillion
增
yuan.
长1个百分点的增量，
Every percentage point of GDP growth today is equivalent to 1.5 percentage points of growth 5 years ago,
10年前2.5个百分点的增量，
or 2.5 percentage points of growth 10 years ago.
增长
The larger the economy grows, the greater the difficulty of achieving growth.
全国各族人民
In the face of these difficulties and pressures, all our people have truly exerted themselves and progressed step by
再
step
次证明，
to get us where
任
we
何
are
艰难
today.
险阻
This
都挡
once
不
again
住
demonstrates that no difficulty or hardship will ever stop China from moving forward.
1年来，我们主要做了以下工作：
I will now move on to discuss the main work we did last year.
稳增长、
First, we maintained stable growth,
防风险、
made structural
创
adjustments,
创新，
guarded against risks, and developed new ways
为应
of
对
conducting
持续加
macro
大的
regulation.
经济下行压
In
力，
responding to the mounting
我
downward
们在
pressure on the
区间
economy,
调控基础上，实
we
施定
exercised targeted and well-timed
相继的
regulation on the basis of
积极的财
range-based
政政策
regulation.
注重
We
加力
adopted proactive
增效
fiscal policy that focused on increasing intensity and efficacy by expanding the scope of structural tax reductions, reducing
盘
fees
活
across
财
the
政
board,
存量资金，
and putting dormant budgetary
发行
funds to good
地
use.
方政府债券置换存量债务
Local government bonds
3.2
issued to replace outstanding debt reached
降低
3.2
利息
trillion
负
yuan,
担约2000亿，
lessening the interest payment burden of local governments by approximately 200 billion yuan, while also
稳
reducing
健的货
their
币
debt
政策
repayment
注
pressure.
重松紧适度，
We
多次
pursued prudent monetary
降息
policy with an
降
appropriate amount of
改革
intensity, making
存
several
贷
cuts to
管理
interest rates
创
that
新
required reserve
货币政
ratios,
策工具，
reforming
加大
management of the
对
loan
实
to
体经济
deposit ratio, creating new monetary policy tools,
扩大
and
有效
increasing
投资，
support for the real
设
economy.
立专项基金
Effective investment increase,
加强
special purpose
水利
funds were established,
城镇
and
棚
development was strengthened in
农村
areas
绿
in
化
need
改
of
造
attention,
中西部铁路
including water conservancy, rundown urban
环境
areas, and dilapidated rural housing,
实
and
施
railways and highways
重
in the
点领
central
域
and
消费
western
促进
regions.
工程，城乡居
Consumer
民
spending was promoted in key areas, spurring rapid growth in spending on recreational travel, online shopping, and information goods and
金
services.
融领域
Last year, we also responded proactively to a variety of risks and challenges in the financial sector,
区域性风险
ensuring that
底
no
线
systemic or regional threats arose,
国家
safeguarding
经济
China's
金融安
economic
全。
and financial security.
二是围绕激发市场活力
Second, we intensify reform and opening up to invigorate the market.
我们不搞大水漫灌式的
Rather
刺
than
激
adopting strong stimulus policies that would have an economy-wide impact,
深入推进简政
we
放
continue to move forward with
放管
structural reform. We intensify reform to streamline administration,
取消
delegate more
和
powers,
下放
improve
311
regulation, and provide better
项
services.
行政审
We
批
delegated the power or canceled the
取消
requirement for government reviews
123项
for 311 items, canceled the requirement for verification or
彻
approval
底终结
for
了
123
非
professional
行政许
qualifications,
可审批
and put a complete
工
stop
商登记前置
the
审批
practice of
精简
non-administrative review.
85%，
The
全
number
面
of
实施
items which require government
三证合一
approval for new businesses prior to registration
加强
was cut by
事中
85%.
事后监管，优化
and the system of a separate business license organization code certificate and taxation registration certificate was replaced by unified business license with a unified social credit code.
财税、金融等重点改革深入推进。
Fiscal, tax, financial, and other key reforms were deepened. The central government cut by 1/3 the number of items for which special transfer payments are permitted. Steady progress was made in replacing business tax with VAT. Ad valorem taxation was extended to cover more types of resource taxes. The upper limit of the floating ban on deposit rates was removed. The deposit insurance system was introduced. The RMB cross-border payment system was established. Pricing reform was intensified, with the number of central government set prices reduced by 80% and the number of local government set prices cut by more than 50%. We carried out state-owned enterprise reforms, rural reforms, and investment and financing reforms, ecological management reforms, and others. Efforts to intensify reforming all respects are beginning to deliver results. Momentum was created for reform and development through opening up. We worked hard to keep foreign trade stable by adjusting the mechanism for sharing the cost of export tax rebates between the central and local governments, overhauling and regulating charges for imports and exports. Increasing trade facilitation and making changes to the export mix. The number of restrictions on overseas investment in China was cut by 50%, and over 95% of overseas funded projects may now be undertaken on a simple reporting basis. China utilized $126.3 billion of overseas investment, an increase of 5.6%. Non-financial outward foreign direct investment increased by 14.7%. Pilot free trade zones were established in Guangdong, Tianjin, and Fujian based on the model of the Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone. The RMB was included in the IMF's special drawing rights basket. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank was officially inaugurated, and the Silk Road Fund opened for business. China signed free trade agreements with the Republic of Korea and Australia, respectively, and signed the protocol to amend the framework agreement on comprehensive economic cooperation between China and ASEAN. Progress was made in the Silk Road Economic Belt and 21st Century Maritime Silk Road Initiative. Third, we worked to promote industrial innovation and upgrading to improve economic performance. To strengthen the new growth engines, innovation-driven development plan was adopted along with guidelines on its implementation. Policies and measures were introduced to encourage public participation in starting businesses and making innovations, and the Internet Plus Action Plan was implemented. A great number of makers started businesses and made innovations. Improvements were made to policies in support of agriculture to promote transformation of the agricultural growth model. In addressing the decline in industrial growth and the downward slide in corporate performance, we worked to foster new industries and upgrade traditional ones. We launched the Made in China 2025 initiative to upgrade manufacturing, set up government funds to encourage investment in emerging industries and to develop small and medium-sized enterprises, and establish more national innovation demonstration zones. We cut overcapacity and encouraged business acquisitions and restructuring. Cuts made in outdated production capacity over the past 3 years have included over 90 million metric tons of steel and iron, 230 million metric tons of cement, over 76 million weight cases of plate glass, and more than 1 million metric tons of electrolytic aluminum. The development, production, consumer-oriented service industries picked up momentum. We took serious measures to conserve energy, reduce emissions, and protect the environment, exceeding obligatory targets. We released self-imposed emissions reduction targets and contributed to the positive outcomes of international negotiations on climate change. Fourth, we promoted coordinated development between regions and the new type of urbanization to expand development space. Work continued to promote the coordinated development of the eastern region, the central region, the western region, and the northeast. Priority was placed on moving forward with the three initiatives: the Belt and Road Initiative, the Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei Integration Initiative, and the Yangtze Economic Belt Initiative. A number of major projects were also launched to develop infrastructure, improve the distribution of industries, and achieve ecological and environmental conservation. Policies and measures were introduced to promote the development of Tibet, Xinjiang, Tibetan ethnic areas in the provinces of Sichuan, Yunnan, Gansu, and Qinghai. Fifth, we promoted the reform and development of social programs to improve living standards. Despite fiscal constraints, we continue to intensify efforts to help ensure the well-being of our people. New policies were launched to create jobs and business startups for opportunities for college graduates and those with difficulties finding employment. Over the course of the year, 7.72 million government-subsidized housing units were basically completed in urban areas. Work started on the reconstruction of 6.01 million housing units in rundown urban areas, and 4.32 million dilapidated houses in rural areas were built, helping large numbers of families that are struggling with housing realize their dream of having a home to settle in. We moved more quickly to improve conditions in badly built and poorly operated schools, providing compulsory education in poor areas, deepened the reform of the professional title system for elementary and secondary school teachers, increased the number of students from poor rural areas who are enrolled in key institutions of higher learning by a further 10.5%. Comprehensive reform was carried out in all public hospitals at the county level. The coverage of the serious disease insurance scheme was extended to more rural and non-working urban residents. A system of assistance for treating major and serious diseases was put in place, and a system for providing living allowances for people with disabilities who are in need and for granting nursing care subsidies to persons with severe disabilities was established. Sixth, we developed new ways of conducting law-based administration and governance to promote social harmony and stability. The State Council submitted 11 legislative proposals to the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress and enacted or revised 8 sets of administrative regulations. Efforts were accelerated to increase government transparency and expand the application of e-government and online administration. We set up a mechanism to inspect and establish accountability for the implementation of major government policies and introduce third-party evaluations. We responded effectively to natural disasters and emergencies. Efforts were stepped up to ensure workplace safety. As a result, we have seen a continual reduction in the number of total accidents, including the number of accidents of a serious or large-scale nature, as well as those in industries where accidents tend to be more common. We moved ahead with the demonstration initiative to ensure food safety was strengthened all-around efforts to maintain law and order. The campaign to build understanding of the 3 stricts and 3 honests was intensified. The CPC Central Committee's 8-point decision on improving party and government conduct continued to be implemented. Action was taken against formalism, bureaucratism, hedonism, and extravagance. And rigorous efforts were made to carry out the State Council's 3-point decision on curbing government spending. We marked the 70th anniversary of the victory in the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the global war against fascism. This anniversary was a reminder of China's place in history as the main theater in the East during the global war against fascism and its major contribution to the war effort. The Chinese people marked this occasion to demonstrate their dedication to safeguarding peace and upholding justice together with other peoples of the world.
全方位外交成果
Over the
丰硕
past year, China's all-around diplomacy has delivered fruitful
等国家领导
outcomes.
人
President Xi Jinping and other Chinese leaders have visited many countries and attended international events, including the UN summits, the G20 Leader Summit,
亚太经合组织领导人非正式会议、
the 23rd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting,
东亚合作
the
领导人
21st session of
系列会议
Conference of Parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, the East Asian Leaders Meeting on Cooperation, and the World Economic Forum Annual Meeting
中欧领导
2016.
人会晤
The summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation and the China-EU Leaders Meeting were held.
新进展
In the China and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, Forum was inaugurated. Fresh progress was made in China's relations with other major countries. Pragmatic cooperation with neighboring countries was strengthened. Friendship and cooperation with other developing countries grew. Relations with the UN and other international organizations and mechanisms
作为
were strengthened in all areas, and notable achievements were made in economic diplomacy and cultural exchanges. As a responsible major country, China played an important constructive role in international and regional affairs.
各位代表，
Distinguished
过
delegates,
去1年取得的成绩，是以习近平同志为总书记的党
we
中
owe
央
these achievements to the sound overall decisions made by the CPC Central Committee, headed by
是
General
全
Secretary
党
Xi
全
Jinping,
军
and to the concerted and determined efforts of all members of the party,
顽强拼搏的结果。
all members of the armed forces and all the people of China.
向全国各族
On
人民、
behalf of the State
各
Council,
民主党派、
I wish to express our sincere gratitude to the people of all
表示
ethnic groups in
诚
China,
挚
including
感谢
public figures from all sectors of society, and to the other
向
parties in
香
the
港
people's
特别行政
organizations.
区同胞、
I also express
All
our
men
heartfelt
特别行政区
appreciation
同
to
胞
our fellow countrymen
台湾
and
同胞
women in the
和
Hong
海
Kong
外
and
侨
Macau
胞
special administrative
表示
regions in
诚挚
Taiwan,
感谢。
and to Chinese nationals overseas.
向关心和支持中国
I
现代
also
化
wish to
建设
express
事业
our
的各国
sincere
政府
thanks to the governments,
国际组织
international
和各国
organizations,
朋友
and
表
friends
示
from all over the
诚挚
world
感谢。
who have shown understanding and support for China in her endeavor to modernize.
在充分肯定去年成绩的同时，
While recognizing our achievements,
我们也清醒看到
we're also keenly aware that our country is still confronted with many difficulties and problems in
困
pursuing
难的问
development.
题。受全球贸易萎
With the
缩
decline
的
in
因素
global
影响，
trade,
去年
amongst other
我国
factors,
进出口
China
总额
experienced a
出现
fall
下
in
降
its total imports and
预
exports
期增长目标
and failed
未能实
to
现，
reach its growth
投
objective
资
in
增
this
长
regard.
乏力，
Growth
一
investment
些
is
行业
sluggish.
产能过剩严重，
Overcapacity is a
部
serious
分企
problem
业
in certain
生产
industries.
经营困难，
Some enterprises are
地区
facing difficulties in
和行业
production
走势
and
分化。
operations.
财政
Growth
收支
prospects
矛
are
盾
mixed
突
for
出
different regions and
金
different
融
industries.
等领域存在风
Notable
险隐患
imbalances exist between government
人
revenue
民
and
群众关心
expenditures,
的
and there are latent
医
risks
疗、
in the
教
financial
育、
and other sectors.
养老、
There are many
食
problems
品
in
药品
medical
安
care,
全、
education,
收入
elderly
分配、
care, food,
城市管
and
理
medicine safety, income
方
distribution,
面
urban
问题
management
较多。
that are of
严
concern
重
to the
雾霾
people.
天气在一些地
Some
区
regions are frequently
时
hit
有
by
发生。
severe smog, particularly
特别令人
distressing
痛心的
last
是
year.
去年发生了东方
We
之
saw the
星号
sinking of the cruise
特能
ship
翻
Oriental
沉事
Star
件
on the Yangtze
和天津港
and the massive
特别
explosion in
重大
Tianjin port.
火灾、爆炸等事故，人员伤亡和财产损失惨重。
The deaths
教训
and injuries and the
极其
damage
深
and
刻
loss of property
必须
from these incidents were
认真汲取
devastating. And the profound
政府工作
lessons these
还
incidents
存在
have taught us
不
should
足
never be forgotten.
有些改革和政策措施落实不到位，
There are still
少
inadequacies in
数
the
干
work of the
部
government.
不作为，
Some
不会
reforms, policies, and measures
乱做
have not been fully
一些
implemented.
领域的
A small
不正
number
之
of
风
government employees
和腐败
either
问
do
题
not or are
不容
unable to
忽视。
fulfill their duties
我们要
or
进一步增
behave
强
irresponsibly.
忧患意识
We
和
mu-
担当意识，
We
下
must be more
更大
mindful
力
of
气
the
解
difficulties
决
ahead,
这些问题，
more ready to
始
assume
终以
responsibility,
民之
and
所
more
望
hardworking,
为
ensuring
施
these
政
problems are
所
solved.
向，
The wishes of the
尽心
people
竭
should
力
always
做
determine
好
the
政
aim
府
of
工
our
作，
governance.
绝不辜负
We must do
人
our
民的政
utmost to
风。
deliver a strong performance in our work and never fail to live up to the great trust the people have placed in us.
各位代表，
Esteemed deputies,
2015年是12
the
个
period
收
covered
官
by the
之年，
12th five-year plan came to a
Watch it.
close in 2015.
我国发展
During the past 5 years,
成就 举世
impressive achievements were made in China's development.
党的18大以来，
Since the 18th
在以习近平同
CPC
志为
National
总书记
Congress
的
in
统领下
2012, we have
坚
found
强
ourselves in a
面对
complicated
错综复杂的国际
international
环境
environment,
和艰巨
and
繁
we
重
have
的
faced the
国
challenging
内
tasks
改
of
革发
carrying
展
out reform and development and
我们
maintaining
继
stability
续
at home.
坚持稳
However,
中求进工作总基
Under
调
the guidance of CPC Central Committee
深化
headed
改革开
by
放
General Secretary Xi
实施一
Jinping,
系
we
列
have continued our
立当
commitment
前
to general
为
principles
长远
making
的更大
progress
举措
while working on
12
keeping
五
performance
规划
stable,
确定的主要目标任务
deepen
全
reform.
面完成
As a result, we successfully
经济
fulfilled
持续较快发展
all the main tasks
国
and
内生
targets
产总值
set out in the
年均
12th
增长
five-year plan.
7.8%。
A high
经济
rate of
总量
economic development was
稳居
maintained. China's
世界
GDP
第二
grew at an average annual
成为
rate of
全球
7.8%.
第一货物贸易
And
大
this growth
和
enabled
主
China to
要
comfortably
对
gain
外
its
投资大
position as world's second largest economy.
20
Second,
经济结构
milestone
取得标
progress
志性
was
进展
achieved in structural
服务业
adjustments.
成为
Service
第一
industries
大产
have
业
grown to be the largest
工业化
economic
与
sector.
信息化
Information technology has been
融合加
further
深
integrated into
农业综
industrialization,
合生产能力
and overall
明显
agricultural
增强
production capacity
消
has
费
notably
成为
improved.
支撑经济
Consumption
增
has
长的
become a major
主要力
driver
量
of growth.
超过1半人口
Over half of China's
居住在
population
城
now
镇
resides in
单
urban
位
areas.
国内生产总值能耗
Energy
下降
consumption per unit of GDP has dropped
18.2%
by
主要
18.2%.
污染物
And
排
the
放量
emissions of
减
major
少
pollutants have been
12%
cut by
以上
over 12%.
三是基础设
Third,
施水平
across the
全面跃升
board improvements were
铁
made
路
in
应用里程
infrastructure.
达到
The length of
12.1
railways
万
in
公里
service reached
其中
121,000
高速铁
kilometers,
路超
of
过
which more than
1.9 万公里，占世
19,000
界
kilometers
60%。
are high-speed rail lines, more than
高速公
60%
路
of the world's
通车
total.
里程超过
The length of
12
expressways
万
open to traffic
南水
exceeded
北调
120,000
中
kilometers.
线工程通
The
车，
eastern and middle routes of
建成
south to
全球
north
最大的
water diversion
第
project
四
were
代
put into
移动
operation,
通
and the
讯
world's largest 4G mobile
40
network was built in
科技
China.
创新
Fourth,
实现
significant
重大突
breakthroughs
破
were made in scientific and
量子
technological
通信
innovation. Original
中微子震
achievements
荡
were made in quantum
高温铁基
communications,
超导
neutrino, oscillation, and iron-based high-temperature superconductivity through
载
basic
人航
research.
天
World-class
探月工程
advances were made in manned
深
spaceflight
海
and
探测
lunar
项目
exploration
达到
program, as
世
well
界
as deep
先进
water
水平
exploration.
五是人民
Fifth,
生活水
living
平
standards improved
显著提高
significantly.
居民收入增
Personal
长
income
快于
increased faster than
经济增长
economic growth,
城乡收入
and
差
the
距
urban-rural
持续
income
缩小
gap was narrowed.
城镇新增就业人
Over
数超过
64 million urban
6400
jobs
万
were created.
城镇保障型安居公共
Government
住房建
subsidies
设
were used to build
4013
40.13
万套
million housing units in urban
实现
areas,
新基农村贫困
providing
人
new
口
homes for around
减少
100
1亿
million people. The number of
解决
rural residents
3亿
living in
多
poverty was
农
cut
村
by
人
more
口
than
饮
100
水
million,
安全
and over 300 million rural
六是
residents gained
社会
access to
发
safe
展
drinking water.
成就斐
And
然
sixth, notable
教育公
achievements were
平
made in
和
social
质量
development.
明显提升
Significant progress were made in
基本
ensuring
医疗
equal
保
access
险
to education, and the
实
quality of
现
education
全覆盖
markedly
基
improved.
本养老保险
Basic
参
health
保率
insurance was
超
expanded,
过
and
80%
participation in basic pension
文
plans
化软实
exceeded
力
80% of the
持
whole
续提升
population. China's
依
soft
法治
power
国
continued to grow.
全面推进
The rule of law
中
was
国特
advanced
色
in all
军事变
respects.
革成就显
Significant
著
achievements were made in the military
经过
revolution
5年努力
with Chinese characteristics. Over the past 5 years, China's economic strength, scientific and technological capabilities, defense capabilities, and international influence have all been strengthened considerably.
12.5时期的辉煌成就
The achievements attained during the period of 12 five-year plan fully demonstrate the strength of socialism with Chinese characteristics and the creativity of Chinese people.
极大增强了中华民族的
The
自
Chinese
信
people
心
can derive great confidence and a strengthened sense of unity from these achievements, drawing on them to forge ahead on this new leg of
2个100
journey
年
toward
奋斗目标的
realizing the two
新征程
centenary
上
goals.
奋力前行。二
Second,
13.5时期主要目标任务和重大举措。
Let me now brief you on the main tasks, targets for the period of 13th Five-Year Plan from 2016 through 2020. On the basis of CPC Central Committee recommendations for 13th Five-Year Plan for Economic and Social Development, the State Council has dropped the draft of 13th Five-Year Plan for Economic and Social Development and submitted to this session for your review and approval. The central goal of finishing building a moderately prosperous society in all respects and designed to address serious issues such as unbalanced, uncoordinated, and unsustainable development stresses the need to promote innovative, coordinated, green, open, and shared development. It proposes the main targets and tasks for economic and social development over the next 5 years, as well as develop policies, innovative initiatives, and projects. The following are the 6 areas highlighted in the draft. We should work to maintain median high rate of growth and promote the development of industries toward median to high end. To finish building a moderately prosperous society in all respects and double the 2010 GDP and per capita personal income by 2020, the economy needs to grow at an average annual rate of at least 6.5% during this 5 period. To that end, we will move faster to improve and upgrade the structure of industry and launch initiatives that use advanced technologies. Our goal is that by 2020, advanced manufacturing, modern services, and strategic emerging industries as a proportion of GDP will have risen significantly, and that per capita labor productivity will rise from 87,000 yuan to over 120,000 yuan. By that time, China's aggregated economic output should have exceeded 90 trillion yuan, and the quality and efficacy of development should have significantly improved. For a developing country like China, with such a large population, this would be a truly remarkable achievement. We should ensure that innovation better drives and energizes development. Innovation is the primary driving force for development and must occupy a central place in China's development strategy, which is why we must implement a strategy of innovation-driven development. We should launch new national science and technology programs, build first-class national science centers and technological innovation hubs, and help develop international competitive high-innovation enterprises. We should make consistent efforts to encourage the public to start businesses and make innovations. We should promote the extensive application of big data, cloud computing, and international Internet of Things. We need to move faster to achieve major breakthroughs and make research in strategic frontier fields by 2020. China's investment in research and development is expected to reach 2.5% of GDP, and the contribution of scientific and technological advances toward economic growth should come to reach 60%. Fulfilling these objectives will turn China into innovative and talent-rich country. We should make progress in new urbanization and agricultural modernization, as well as balancing development between urban and rural areas and between regions. Narrowing the gap between urban and rural areas, between regions, is not only a key part of economic structural adjustments, we should also advance the new people-centered urbanization, granting urban residency to around 100 million people, completing the rebuilding of both rundown areas and villages and cities involving about 100 million people, and enabling around 100 million rural residents to live in local towns. By 2020, permanent urban residents should account for 60% of China's population, and 45% of Chinese people should be registered as permanent urban residents. We should launch initiatives to develop water conservancy in agriculture, modern seed industries, and by 2020, The supply, quality, and safety of food core and other major agricultural products should be better ensured. And a headway should be made in modernizing agriculture. Guided by General Strategy, 3 initiatives to form north to south and east to west intersecting economic belts along the coastline, the Yangtze River and the major transportation routes, and foster new growth places and city clusters that facilitate the development of surrounding areas. We should also expand major infrastructure projects, increasing the length of high-speed railways in service to 30,000 kilometers and linking more than 80% of big cities in China with high-speed railways, building or upgrade around 30,000 kilometers of expressways, and achieving full coverage of access to broadband networks in both urban and rural areas. We should encourage green ways of working and living and speed up efforts to ensure ecosystem and the environment. We need to protect the environment while pursuing development and achieve development in a well-protected environment. We need to take serious action to prevent and control air, water, and soil pollution and intensify ecological conservation and restoration efforts. Over the next 5 years, we should aim to ensure that water consumption, carbon dioxide emissions per unit of GDP are cut by 23%, 15%, and 18%, and that forest coverage reaches 23.04%. We should also make it our aim within this time frame to develop and use energy and resources much more efficiently. In particular, we should strive for major progress in control and prevention of air pollution, and to see that the air quality of cities at and above the perfect level is good or excellent for 80% of the year. We must work to build, through tireless efforts, a beautiful China where the sky is blue, the land is green, and the water runs clear. We need to deepen reform and opening up to create new institutions for development. Fundamentally, development relies on reform and opening up. We must deepen reform across the board, uphold and improve basic economic systems, establish a modern system of property rights, and see that a rule of law government is basically in place. It should be ensured that the market plays a decisive role and the government better plays its role in resource allocation to create the system, mechanism, and growth model that will guide the new normal in economic development. We should work for significant progress in pursuing the Belt and Road Initiative. We should promote the optimization of imports and exports, significantly increase the proportion of trade and services, and promote China's transformation from a trader of quantity to a trader of quality. We should put into forces across the board the management system for pre-establishment national treatment plus a negative list and progressively build a network of high-standard free trade areas. We need to ensure that continuous progress is made in raising living standards and see that everyone shares the fruits of development. We need to fight hard to win the war against poverty and help lift out of poverty all rural residents falling behind the current poverty line and achieve poverty alleviation in all poor countries and areas. We need to ensure that all schools providing compulsory education complying with educational standards and that everyone has access to secondary education, and that China have more world-class universities and first-class fields of discipline, and the average number of years of schooling received by working-age population increases from 10.23 to 10.8 years. We need to create 50 million plus new urban jobs. We need to improve the income distribution system, reduce the income gap, and increase the proportion of the middle-income group in the whole populace. We should improve system of government housing support, which should include the rebuilding of 20 million housing units in rundown urban areas. We need to work in building healthy China and achieve a 1-year increase in average life expectancy, and to put into effect cultural programs to boost civic morality and keep China cultural thriving. These efforts should enable people not only enjoy a better life in material terms, but also live a more enriching intellectual and cultural life. To achieve a success in our work to promote economic and social development during the period of 13th Five-Year Plan, we must keep to following 3 guidelines. First, give top priority to development. Development is primary importance of China and is key to solving every problem we face. During the next 5 years, we must take particular care to avoid falling into the middle-income trap, and we need to address an increasing number of problems and risks. Pursuing development is like sailing against the current. We must remain committed to economic development as our central task, endeavor to promote sound development, and respond effectively to challenges. Second, make major headway in carrying out structural reform. At present, we face problems both with aggregated supply and demand, and with our structures. The structural problems are more acute, and reforms should be conducted to adjust these structures. While working to achieve an appropriate expansion of aggregate demand, we need to give particular emphasis to structural reforms on the supply side. That means we need to reduce ineffective and lower-end supply while increasing effective and median and high-end supply, increase the supply of public goods and services, ensure that development is driven by both supply and demand, and improve total factor productivity. This should enable us to unleash and develop productive forces. Third, accelerate the shift in driving forces for development. In the course of economic development, it is only natural that old drivers of growth are replaced by new ones. As conventional driving forces weaken, it is critical that new driving forces emerge and that the conventional ones undergo a transformation so that a new twin engines are formed. Only then is it possible to upgrade the economy and achieve sustainable growth. This is a crucial period which China currently finds itself, during which we must build up powerful new drivers in order to accelerate the development of new economy. We need to move faster to develop new technology, industries, and forms of businesses, and boost the development through institutional innovations, sharing platforms, and develop emerging industries, such as high-tech and modern services industry clusters. We will use network-based information technology and other modern technologies to drive changes in models of production, management, and marketing, create new industry chains, supply chains, and value chains, and transform and upgrade conventional drivers, that's injecting them with new vitality. Ultimately, it is the people who are an inexhaustible source of power that drives development. A workforce of over 900 million, of whom over 100 million have received higher education or are professionally trained, this is our greatest resource and strength. Replacing old drivers of growth with new ones and achieving a shift in development to a greater reliance on human resources, human capital, innovations in science and technology is a process of painful adjustment. But it is also at the same time an upgrading process with great promise. We just have to get through this process, and we can, without question, reinvigorate the economy and ensure its dynamic growth. Looking ahead to the next 5 years, we are fully confident that we will finish building a moderately prosperous society in all respects within the set time frame, and that our people will enjoy better lives, and that there will be an even brighter future for the cause of building socialism with Chinese characteristics.
I now want to discuss the major areas of work for
是
2016.
全面建成小康社会决胜阶段的
This is the
开局
first year of the decisive stage in
也是推
finishing
进
building a
相
moderately
信改革的
prosperous society
关键之一
in all respects and a
做好
crucial
这个
year
工作
in carrying out
必须
structural
高
reform.
举中国特色社
To
会
ensure that the
当
government's
起
goal for this year is
全
accomplished,
面贯
we
彻
must do the
18大
following.
和18届
Hold high the great
三
banner
中
of socialism
四
with
中
Chinese
五中全会
characteristics,
精神
implement the guiding
以邓小
principles
平理论
of the 18th
三个代
National
表中国
Congress of the CPC and the
科学
3rd,
发展
4th,
观
and 5th plenary
指导
sessions of the
深入
18th CPC Central
贯彻
Committee.
邓习近平
Follow
主
the
席
guidance of Deng Xiaoping
系
theory.
列
The
重要
theory
讲
of
话
three represents a scientific
按照
outlook on development.
五位一体
Putting to
双
practice
起
the guiding principles from
和
General
四个
Secretary Xi
全
Jinping's
面
major
战略
policy addresses.
坚
Work
持
in
改
accordance
革
with
开
the
放
overall plan
坚
for
持
promoting
新
all
发
around
展
economic,
理念
political,
引
cultural,
领
social,
发展
and ecological progress.
坚持稳
Continue
中求
reform
进
and
工作
opening up. Follow the new vision of development. Follow the
实现
general
经济
principle of
发展
making progress
新常态
while working to
实行
keep performance stable.
宏观政策要稳
Follow the
产业
general
政策要稳
guidelines that macro
微观政策
policies
要
should be stable,
改革政策
industrial
要
policies
实
targeted,
社
micro
会政策
policies
要
flexible,
合理的总体
reform
性
policies practical,
把握
and
好
that social
稳增长
policies
与调节
should
的
ensure
平
basic
衡
needs.
保持经济运行在合理区间
Maintain a balance between
着力
ensuring
加
steady
强
growth
供给
and making
侧
structural
监督侧
adjustments.
加快培
Ensure
养
that the
新的
economy operates within an appropriate
改造
range.
提升
Strengthen
传统
supply side structural reform.
抓好
Accelerate the fostering of new driving forces for development.
去杠杆
Strengthen traditional
将成本
comparative advantages.
补短板
Cut
加强
overcapacity and excess
民生
inventory,
保障
deleverage,
切
reduce
实
costs,
防
and
控
strengthen points of
风险
weakness.
努力实现“十三五”时期
By working
经济社会
to
发展
achieve all of
良
these,
好开局
we should get off to a good start in economic and social
今年发展的
development during the period
主
covered
要
by the 13th
预期目标
five-year
是
plan. The main
国内
development
生产总值
targets
增长
for this year are
6.5%到7%，
GDP growth
7%
of 6.5%
居
to
民
7%.
消费价格涨幅
CPI increase
3%
kept around 3%.
城镇新增就业
Creation of
1000
at
万
least
人
10 million new urban jobs.
城镇登记失业率
Registered urban
4.5%
unemployment rate kept within 4.5%.
回稳向好，
A steady rise in import and export volumes. A basic balance in international payments.
经济增长基本同步，
Increases in personal
单位
income
国内生产总
basically
值能耗
in step with
下降
economic growth. A
3.4%
reduction in energy
以上
consumption per unit of
主要污染
GDP
物
of
排
at
放
least
继续减少
3.4%. Further reductions in
经济
major
增长预
pollutants.
期目标6.5%
In setting a projected growth
7%
rate of between 6.5%
全
and
面建成
7%,
小康社会目标
we have
详细
taken into consideration the need to
考虑
finish
了
building
推进
a moderately
结构性
prosperous
改革的
society in all respects
也有
and the
利于
need to advance structural
稳
reform.
定和引导
It will also
市场
help guide market
稳增
expectations
长
and keep them
主
stable.
要是为了
The aim of
就业
maintaining stable growth is primarily to
由
ensure employment and promote the people's
6.5%
well-being.
到7%
And a
的
growth
增
rate
速
of between
就能够
6.5% and 7% will allow for relatively full employment.
综合分析各方面情况，
A comprehensive analysis of all factors shows that China will face more and tougher problems and challenges in its development this year.
我们要做
So we must be fully prepared to fight a difficult battle.
从国际看，世
Internationally,
界经济
the global
深度
economy is experiencing profound changes and struggling to
国际贸易
recover.
增长低，
Growth in trade is
金
weak.
融
There are
大宗商
fluctuations
品
in the
市场
financial and commodity
波动
markets.
不定，
Geopolitical
地
risks
缘
are
政治风
rising,
险上升，
and there are increasing
外部
instabilities
环境的
and uncertainties
不
in
稳
China's
定
external
和不确定
environment.
因素增加，对我国发展的影响
So we should
不
not
可低估。
underestimate the impact of all of this will have
长
on
期积
China's
累的矛
development.
盾和风险
Domestically,
进一步
problems and risks that have been building up
经济增速
over the years are becoming more
先后调
evident.
整，震
The
荡
change of pace in
新旧
economic
动能
growth,
转换
the
相
difficulties
互交织
associated with
经济
structural
下
adjustments
行
and the
压力
transformation of the drivers of growth present
但困难和
interwoven
挑战
problems.
并不可怕，
But we will
中国
not
的
be
发展
daunted by these
从来
problems
都
and
是在
challenges.
应对挑战
China
中
has, from the start, been developing while responding to challenges. There is no difficulty we cannot get beyond.
经过多年的快速发展，
Thanks to years of rapid development,
物质基础雄厚，
China has laid a solid material foundation and its economy is hugely resilient and has enormous potential and ample room for growth. At the same time, reform and opening up has been injecting new impetus into economic growth, and a wealth of experience has been gained in developing new ways of conducting macro regulation. In addition, we have the guidance of the CPC and the system of socialism with Chinese characteristics. As long as we work together as one to surmount all difficulties, we'll definitely achieve the targets for economic and social development. This year, we will carry out the following 8 tasks. Number 1, improve and keep stable our macroeconomic policies to ensure that the economy performs within an appropriate range. At present, we still have new instruments for macro regulation and a good reserve of policies at our disposal. On the one hand, we'll focus on current realities and take targeted steps to withstand the downward pressure on the economy. On the other hand, we must have our long-term development goals in mind, keep some policy tools as options for later use, strategize our moves, and gather strength. We'll continue to implement proactive fiscal policy and prudent monetary policy, strengthen range-based, targeted, and well-timed regulation, and use fiscal and monetary policies in industry, investment, and pricing policy tools in a coordinated way, and implement structural reform, particularly supply-side structural reform, so as to create an enabling environment for economic development. We'll pursue a more proactive fiscal policy. The government deficit for 2016 is projected to be 2.18 trillion yuan, an increase of 560 billion yuan over last year, meaning the deficit to GDP ratio will rise to 3%. Of the deficit, 1.4 trillion yuan will be carried out by the central government, and the remaining 780 billion yuan will be carried by local governments. Special bonds by local governments will total 400 billion yuan. Local government debt converting bonds will continue to be issued. China's deficit to GDP ratio and government debt ratio are lower than those of other major economies. Such steps are necessary, feasible, and also safe. The moderate increase in government deficit is projected to primarily cover tax and fee reductions for enterprises. The following 3 measures will be adopted this year. First, business tax will be replaced with value-added tax in all sectors, starting from May 1st. The scope of work to pilot this measure will be extended to the construction, real estate, financial, and consumer service industries. And VAT deductions will cover all new immovable property of enterprises to ensure that the tax burdens on all industries are reduced. Second, government-managed funds set up without authorization will be abolished. The collection of contributions to certain government-managed funds will be suspended. Third, exemptions from 18 administrative charges, which currently apply only to small and micro businesses, will be expanded to include all enterprises and individuals. Through the above policies, the burdens on enterprises and individuals will be cut by more than 500 billion yuan this year. At the same time, we'll increase government expenditures and investment as appropriate to work on living standards and other areas in need of strengthening. We'll develop new ways for government funds to be spent and improve the government spending mix to ensure that all essential items receive sufficient funding. Fiscal and tax reforms will be stepped up. We'll work toward ensuring that the central and local governments receive an appropriate share of VAT revenue. Taxes substitutable as sources of local government revenue will be handed over to local governments. Central government special transfer payments to local governments will be further reduced, while this year's general transfer payments will be increased by 12.2%. We'll extend ad valorem rates to all resource taxes. We'll establish a well-regulated mechanism for local governments to secure financing through bond issuance and make moderate upward adjustments to debt ceilings for local governments with strong financial resources and low debt risks through statutory procedures. Governments at all levels must tighten their belts and spend every sum of money where it can be seen and where it's most needed. We'll pursue prudent monetary policy that's flexible and appropriate. Both the M2 money supply and aggregate financing in the economy are forecast to grow by around 13% in 2016. We'll use a full range of monetary policy tools, including open market operations require reserve ratios and re-lending to maintain sufficient liquidity at a proper level. We will provide more support for the real economy, particularly for small and micro businesses, as well as agriculture, rural areas, and farmers. We'll deepen reform of the financial sector. We'll move faster in the reform to improve the modern financial regulatory system. And that regulation covers all financial risks. Interest rate will be further liberalized. Improvements will be made to the market-based mechanism for setting the RMB exchange rate to ensure it remains generally stable at an appropriate and balanced level. We'll deepen reform of state-owned commercial banks as well as development and policy-backed financial institutions, and launch trials to allow commercial banks to participate in combined debt equity investments into startups and small businesses. We'll move forward with the reform of stock and bond markets and increase the level of rule of law in their development, and ensure that the proportion of direct financing is increased. The Shenzhen-Hong Kong Stock Connect will be launched at an appropriate time. A catastrophe insurance system will be established. We'll work to see that the internet finance develops in line with regulations. We'll strengthen unified macro-prudential management of foreign debt. We'll tighten institutional constraints, safeguard order in the financial sector, crack down on financial fraud, illegal fundraising, and unlawful and criminal activities in the securities and futures markets, and make sure that no systemic or regional financial risks arise. Number 2. Strengthen supply-side structural reform to drive sustained growth. To solve acute problems in key areas, we must work faster to remove institutional obstacles and carry out supply-side structural reform, and further stimulate market vitality and the creativity of society. We'll deepen reforms to streamline administration, delegate more powers, improve regulation, and provide better services as well. With the people in mind, we'll streamline administration, transform the functions of the government, and improve its performance. We'll focus on addressing unsynchronized, uncoordinated, and incomplete delegation of powers, and make sure that the local governments to which powers of review have been delegated are able to properly exercise those powers. We'll release the list of all powers and responsibilities of local governments and begin piloting a negative list for market access in some regions. We'll draw up the lists and catalogs to manage administrative charges, business fees, and charges set by the government are set under its guidance, government-managed funds, and professional qualifications recognized by the state. We'll revise or abolish any administrative regulations, normative documents that are holding back development. We'll develop new ways of conducting oversight over the whole process of business operations, and introduce across the board an oversight model drawing on random inspections by randomly selected law enforcement officers or inspectors and requiring the prompt release of results. We'll implement the reform for coordinated administrative law enforcement and adopt a unified approach to gathering information on enterprise credit. And we will also release such information in accordance with the law, ensure joint punitive action is taken where necessary. We'll carry out the Internet Plus government services model and promote better information sharing between government departments so that the public and businesses need to make fewer visits to government departments to get things done. We'll cut red tape and root out illegalities to ensure that the people have more equal opportunities. We'll ensure that the whole country's potential for starting businesses and making innovations is released. We'll implement a strategy of innovation-driven development, see that science and technology become more deeply embedded in the economy and improve the overall quality and competitiveness of the real economy. First, we'll ensure that the enterprises lead in making innovation. We'll implement additional tax deductions for their research and development. We'll increase tax policy support for high-tech enterprises and science and technology business incubators. We'll support leading enterprises in building top-level research and development institutions. We'll move faster to achieve nationwide implementation of the policy of national innovation demonstration zones. Second, we'll help people to pool their ideas and talents through a synergy of business startups, innovation, and Internet Plus. Platforms will be created for crowd innovation, crowd support, crowdsourcing, and crowdfunding. And mechanisms will be built to encourage new types of business startups and innovation making through cooperation between enterprises, institutions of higher learning, and makers. We'll establish demonstration centers for business startups and innovation, encourage the development of the business startup service industry, as well as angel investment, venture capital, industrial investment, and other investments. We'll give our support to the development of a sharing economy so that resources are used more efficiently. We'll strengthen the protection and use of intellectual property rights and look to the law to crack down on the infringement of these rights. Third, we'll deepen the reform of the management system for science and technology. Greater autonomy will be given to universities and research institutes, and red tape will be cut in the management of research projects. Policies and measures will be implemented to support the transfer and commercialization of scientific and technological achievements, and tax incentives for stocks and options, and profit sharing and bonus plans will be improved to encourage researchers to start businesses and make innovations. We'll foster a culture of innovation, create an enabling environment for innovation in which people venture to break new ground and failure is tolerated. I'm sure that these initiatives will inspire entrepreneurialism and motivate our society to start businesses and make innovations. We'll ensure that overcapacity is cut, costs are lowered, and business performance is improved. We'll focus on addressing the overcapacity in the steel, coal, and other industries facing difficulties. In this process, the market should serve as a check, enterprises should be the major actors, local governments should play a coordinating role, and the central government should provide support. We will use economic, legal, technological, environmental, quality inspection, and safety-related means to strictly control the expansion of production capacity and eliminate overcapacity in a planned way. We'll address the issue of zombie enterprises proactively yet prudently by using measures such as mergers, reorganizations, debt restructurings, and bankruptcy liquidations. 100 billion yuan in rewards and subsidies will be provided by the central government, which will be mainly used to resettle employees laid off from these enterprises. We'll take full range of measures to reduce the transaction, financial, and energy consumption costs of enterprises. We will work to ensure the supply of goods and services is improved. We'll concentrate our efforts on the following three areas. First, we'll see that the quality of consumer goods is improved. We'll move faster to bring domestic quality and safety standards in line with international standards. An established system for making producers pay punitive compensation for failing to meet standards. We'll also encourage enterprises to use flexible and custom-tailored production processes and foster a craftsmanship spirit of striving for the best. Second, we'll work to upgrade manufacturing. We'll intensify efforts to promote the integrated development of Made in China 2025 and the Internet Plus Action Plan. build national platforms for innovation in manufacturing, and launch projects to make the foundation of industry development more solid, promote green manufacturing, and develop high-end equipment. Third, we'll accelerate development of modern service sector. We'll launch a new round of national pilot projects for all-around service sector reform, as well as projects to promote innovation in high-tech services and channel great efforts into developing digital creative industries. We will relax restrictions on market access to the service sector and ensure greater specialization in producer services and higher refinement in consumer services. Fiber optic networks will be developed in a number of cities, and 50,000 administrative villages will be linked up to fiber optic networks. We will push for progress in SOE reform. This year and next, we'll use reform to promote the development of SOEs and push hard to ensure success in upgrading them and improving their performance. We will prompt SOEs, especially those managed by the central government, to make structural adjustments so that some will be developed through innovation, and still others will exit the market. We'll carry out reforms to diversify their types of equity and introduce, on a trial basis, the assumption of powers and responsibilities by corporate boards of directors. Recruitment of professional managers makes ownership and employee equity stakes. We'll deepen the reform of the enterprise personnel management system and explore the possibility of establishing remuneration systems for senior ranking personnel and corporate executives that are compatible with competitive selection and recruitment. To prevent the loss of state assets and ensure their value is maintained or increased, we will encourage state-owned asset supervisory and management authorities to shift their focus to the use of state capital. Local governments will be granted more power over SOE reform. We'll move more quickly to relieve SOEs of their obligations to operate social programs to resolve other long-standing issues. We will energize the non-public sector. We'll significantly relax restrictions on entry into markets such as electricity, telecommunications, transport, natural gas, and remove hidden barriers and encourage private companies to increase investment in these areas and participate in SOE reform. In these fields, private companies will enjoy the same treatment afforded to SOEs in terms of project verification and approval. We will, in accordance with the law, provide equal protection to the property rights of entities under all forms of ownership. We will ensure that infringements on the legitimate rights and interests of non-public sector enterprises and individuals are investigated and prosecuted. We'll create a rule of law environment to help all types of enterprises develop.
Number 3. Tap the potential of domestic demand to increase the space for development. We'll work to achieve a moderate expansion of aggregate demand, adjust the reform and the composition of demand, strive for better alignment between supply and demand, and between investment and consumption, and to work a greater balance in development of urban and rural areas and of different regions. And this will create steady and long-term domestic demand to sustain economic development. We will strengthen the fundamental role of consumption in promoting economic growth. To adapt to the trend toward high-end consumption, we will remove policy barriers, improve the consumer environment, and safeguard the rights and interests of consumers. We'll support the growth of consumption in elderly care, health services, educational and training services, cultural and sports services. We'll work to strengthen the growth of immersion areas of consumption, such as information goods and services, personalized fashion, also encourage interaction between online and offline, and encourage physical stores to transform themselves through innovation. We will also promote the improvement of logistic networks and express delivery services. We will work to stimulate the second-hand car market and move faster to build urban car parks and install charging facilities for new energy cars. We'll carry out nationwide trials to set up consumer financing companies and encourage financial institutions to develop new consumer credit procedures. We'll cut import tariffs and increase the number of duty-free stores. We ensure people are able to take their paid vacations, strengthen development of tourist and transport facilities, scenic spots and tourist sites, and recreational vehicle parks, and see that the tourist market operates in line with regulation. With these efforts, we'll usher in a new era of mass tourism. We'll see that effective investment plays a key role in maintaining stable growth and making structural adjustment. The many weak areas in infrastructure and public services in China and urgent need for industry upgrading leave vast scope for growth in effective investments. This year, we will launch a number of projects set forth in the 13th five-year plan. More than 800 billion yuan will be invested in railway construction, and investment in road construction will reach 1.65 trillion yuan. A further 20 water conservation projects will be carried out, and major projects will be launched to develop hydropower, nuclear power, ultra-high voltage power transmission, smart grids, pipelines for oil and gas transmission, and urban rail transit. Central government budgetary investment will be increased to 500 billion yuan. We'll deepen the reform and investment of financing systems. Funds for specific projects will continue to raise through market-based mechanism. Local financing platforms will be required to transform themselves and shift toward market-based financing. The securitization of tangible assets, such as infrastructure, will be explored, and debt financing will be increased. We will improve the public and private partner model and make good use of 180 billion yuan in seed funds and strictly honor contracts in accordance with law so as to bring the enthusiasm of private investors to the table. We will advance new urbanization. Urbanization is the path we need to take to develop a modern China. It is where we find the greatest potential for domestic demand and the most powerful force for sustainable economic development. We'll take following three major tasks this year. First, we will move faster to see that urban residency is granted to more people with rural household registration living in urban areas. We'll deepen reform of household registration system and relax restrictions on eligibility for urban residency. We will introduce policies for making both the transfer payments and land designated for urban development granted to the government of a local jurisdiction condition upon the number of people with rural household registration. We must move faster to ensure permanent urban residency without urban residents are issued residency card sets, enabling them to enjoy, as provided by the law, the right to access to compulsory education, employment, medical care, and basic public services. Second, we will promote the development of government-subsidized housing in urban areas and the steady and healthy development of real estate market. This year, we'll see to it that 6 million housing units are rebuilt in rundown urban areas and that more people displaced by the rebuilding of such area receive monetary housing compensation rather than housing. We will improve the tax and credit policies for supporting justified personal housing consumption. And we will take policies appropriate to local conditions to real estate industry's problem of excessive inventory. Third, we will redouble our efforts to improve urban planning, development, and management. We will make urban planning more sound, authoritative, and integrate their various types of urban plans into a single master plan. Construction will begin on at least 2,000 kilometers of utility tunnels, will actively promote environmentally friendly buildings, make big push to develop steel understructure, and see what standard and quality of construction progress will be improved. We will work to create smart cities and improve living environments so that people can enjoy a more secure, relaxing, and satisfying city life. We will work to improve the layout of development across region. We'll push ahead with the Belt and Road Initiative, carry out the development for Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei Integration Initiative, and speed up the development of the Yangtze Economic Belt. We'll draw up the 13th five-year plan for large-scale development of Western region, implement a new round of strategies for revitalizing the old industrial bases in Northeast and other parts of the country, adopt a new 10-year plan for fueling the rise of Central region, and support the Eastern region as a later country in making breakthroughs. Will promote economic transformation and upgrading of resource-dependent regions, will support the development of old revolutionary base areas and poor areas, border areas, and will work out a national maritime strategy, protect marine ecosystem and habitats. 4. Speed up efforts to develop modern agriculture and ensure sustained increases in rural income. We will, with as much care and attention as ever, continue focusing on our work related to agriculture, rural areas, and farmers. We'll strengthen policy support for these areas, deepen rural reform, expand the channels through which farmers can find employment and increase their income and ensure quality performance. We will speed up structural adjustment in agriculture. The output of food corps has continued to rise in recent years. This has helped to keep prices stable and ensure people's well-being. But it also resulted in a buildup of excessive stockpiles and falling market prices. To solve this problem, we will guide farmers in adjusting what and how much they grow and breeding in response to market demand, and in making appropriate reductions to the amount of cultivated and devoted growing corn, and following the principle of letting the market determine prices and delinking subsidies from prices, we will reform in an active yet prudent way the system of core purchase and storage to ensure reasonable returns for corn-growing farmers. We'll also adopt a full range to reduce excessive stockpile of food. We'll plan for a new round of initiatives to turn marginal farmland into forest and grassland. We will also develop suitable scale-up agricultural operation and diversified farms and support family farms. We will encourage farmers on a voluntary basis and in accordance with relevant laws to transfer the land they contract to work on in return for compensation. We will deepen the reform of rural collective property rights system, state farms on reclaimed land, collective forest tenure, state forestry farms, farmland irrigation, water conservancy, and rural supply and marketing cooperatives. We will also complete our work nationwide on designating permanent basic cropland and provide special protection for such cropland, improve subsoil of additional 10 million hectares of cropland. We'll explore trials of crop rotation and fallow land, promote innovation and application of agricultural science and technology, promote green, high-yield, cost-efficient food crop production. And in fiscal allocation, investment in agriculture will be ensured. National Agriculture Credit Grant Guarantee System will be established. We will improve public services in rural areas. We will step up the development of rural infrastructure. Additional 200,000 kilometers of rural roads will be built or upgraded. In towns and villages where conditions allow, efforts should be stepped up to build paved roads and provide access to bus services. Launch a new round of efforts to upgrade rural power grids. Our goal is to ensure a stable, reliable supply of power to all rural areas and all electric pump sets on rural flatlands within the next 2 years. We'll encourage progress to make further advances in providing access to safe drinking water. We'll combat poverty. This year, we will help more than 10 million rural residents to lift themselves out of poverty, including over 2 million poor residents who are to be relocated from inhospitable lands, and continue to rebuild the housing of poor rural households. Poverty alleviation efforts will be increased by 43.4%. We'll take targeted measures to alleviate and eliminate poverty in light of local conditions. We'll channel more funds to construct infrastructure such as roads, water, and power supply and internet access. National programs aimed at providing people with policy support and promoting people's well-being will be weighed toward poor areas. We'll give support to targeted poor areas in Western region and support non-governmental participation in combating poverty. Poverty reduction is a must. Government at all levels made the pledge and must be accomplished by qualitatively and quantitatively within the time frame set. Fifth, carry out a new round of high-quality opening up and work to achieve mutually beneficial cooperation. In the face of profound changes in international economic cooperation and competition, and in response to urgent need to improve the performance and upgrade China's economy, we must open wider to the outside world. By doing so, we can strengthen new drivers of development and new forces to propel reform forward. We will work to secure solid progress in pursuing Belt and Road Initiative. Opening up and international economic cooperation in a coordinated way, work with other countries, economic coordinators, corridors, and maritime cooperation hubs. We will work to develop cooperative mechanisms along the routes and build international logistics networks. We will promote the development of border economic cooperation zones, cross-border economic cooperation zones, with a commitment to achieving common development share through the joint consultation. We will ensure that Belt and Road Initiative creates bonds of peace, friendship. We'll work to achieve greater industrial capacity cooperation with other countries. We will improve and implement related supporting fiscal, tax, and financial policies, establish an RMB Overseas Cooperation Fund, and make good use of bilateral industrial capacity cooperation funds, make great use of Chinese equipment, technologies, help Chinese manufacturing brands gain international recognition. We will develop innovative ways to promote foreign trade. Faced with continuously weak foreign demand, we need to take a combination of measures to stop the decline in imports and exports. First, we will move faster to improve and implement policies. We will increase short-term export credit insurance and provide export financing insurance for all insurable complete sets of equipment. Second, we will encourage innovative business models. We will expand trials in cross-border e-commerce, support enterprises in developing overseas warehouses for export products, and promote the development of enterprises that provide comprehensive foreign trade services. Third, we will improve the trade mix. We will launch trials to create innovative ways of developing trade and services, accelerate the development of foreign trade in cultural goods and services, integrate and improve special custom regulation zones, and encourage processing trade to move to central and western regions and extend to the medium to high end of industrial chain. Fourth, we will further facilitate trade. We see that the single window system is implemented for international trade nationwide, and we will reduce frequency of inspections for exports. Fifth, we will adopt a more proactive import policy. Advanced technology and equipment will be increased on the aspects of import. We will work to make better use of overseas investment. We'll continue to relax market access restrictions on investment, simplify procedures for establishing companies with overseas investment, and step up efforts to attract more investments. Develop new overseas-oriented industrial clusters and encourage more overseas investments in central and western regions. Pilot free trade zones will be established in more parts of the country, will improve the system and mechanism for governing development zones, and let the investment environment become more fair, transparent. China will be able to maintain strong appeal and serve as a favored destination for overseas investment. We will accelerate implementation of free trade zone strategy. We wish to actively negotiate and sign the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. We will help to speed up negotiations on the establishment of the China, Japan, and ROK Free Trade Zone. We'll work with progress in negotiations on investment between China and the United States and between China and the European Union. We'll help strengthen collective strategic research on free trade area of Asia-Pacific. China wishes to work with all interested parties to move ahead with trade and investment. Establish an international economic and trade system that is beneficial for all.
Number 6. Step up environmental governance efforts and work to see breakthroughs in green development. Pollution control and environmental protection are important to both the health of our people and sustainable development. So we must work hard, moving forward, and resolve to take a path that leads to both economic development and environmental improvement. This year will ensure that chemical oxygen demand and ammonia nitrogen emissions are both reduced by 2%. Sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide emissions are cut by 3%. And the density of fine particulate matter in key areas continues to fall. We'll focus on promoting the reduction of emissions from the burning of coal in motor vehicles. We'll work to promote cleaner and more efficient use of coal, ensure there is less use of untreated coal, and do more to see coal substituted with electricity and natural gas. We'll upgrade coal-burning power plants nationwide to achieve ultra-low emissions. And we will move faster to shut down coal-fired boilers. We'll increase natural gas supply, improve policy support for the development of wind, solar, and biomass energy, and increase the proportion of clean energy in total energy consumption. We'll push for the use of automobile gasoline and diesel fuel that meet National D standards nationwide, and see that 3.8 million old or high-emission vehicles are taken off the roads. We'll coordinate efforts to prevent and control air pollution regions where it presents a problem. We'll press ahead with the nationwide development and upgrading of urban sewage treatment facilities and strengthen comprehensive efforts aimed at controlling agricultural pollution from non-point sources and at improving the water environment in river basin areas. We'll step up efforts to deal with industrial pollution at the source and conduct online monitoring of all polluting enterprises. We must ensure that the newly revised environmental protection law is strictly enforced, and that those who emit pollutants beyond the limit allowed by their permit or without a permit are severely punished. We'll work to develop the energy conservation and environmental protection industries. We'll ensure that environmental standards are applied in more areas. We'll encourage the use of energy-saving and environmentally friendly advanced technologies and equipment. We'll see that energy-saving renovations in buildings are strengthened and efforts are accelerated to make traditional manufacturing more eco-friendly. We'll encourage everyone to conserve energy and water and make progress in using sorted treatment of waste to improve the networks for recycling renewable resources. And turn the energy conservation and environmental protection industries into pillar industries. We'll continue to develop ecological security barriers. We'll improve mechanisms for compensating for ecological conservation efforts. Commercial logging in natural forests will be banned, and a new round of subsidy and award policies for grassland ecological conservation efforts will be implemented. And we will continue efforts to curb desertification, rock desertification, and soil erosion. Every one of us has an obligation to protect the environment. We call on every member of society to act and contribute. Number 7, strengthen social development to promote people's well-being. The best form of governance is that which puts people's well-being first. We must never lose sight of this and do more to improve the lives of our people and address their concerns. Growth in government revenue is slowing. But when it comes to getting things done for the welfare of the people, we mustn't drop a single thing. We will promote growth in employment and new businesses. We'll pursue a more proactive employment policy and encourage business startups that create employment. This year, there will be up to 7.65 million college students. We will use multiple channels to increase employment and encourage entrepreneurship by implementing initiatives for promoting employment of college graduates and guiding them in starting up their own businesses. We'll help laid-off enterprise employees find new employment and provide basic needs assistance to those in urban areas who face difficulties. Over 21 million training opportunities should be provided for migrant workers to improve their skills, and we will strengthen assistance for flexible employment and new forms of employment. We will promote fairer access to quality education. Education is where a country's future and its people's hopes and aspirations lie. We will unify the urban and rural mechanisms for funding compulsory education and improve conditions in boarding schools and schools which are badly built or poorly operated. We will encourage the development of kindergartens open to all children. We'll work hard to develop modern vocational education and type by type begin waiving all tuition and miscellaneous fees at schools providing secondary vocational education. The salary and other benefits of teachers in rural areas will be increased. We'll move faster to promote distance learning and expand the reach of quality educational resources. Institutions of higher learning should strengthen their teaching and their capacity for innovation. Regular undergraduate institutions will be encouraged to shift their focus toward providing applied education if they're in a position to do so. We'll improve and implement policies enabling children who live with their migrant worker parents to go to secondary school or take college entrance exams in their city of residence. We'll support the development of privately run educational institutions and work to ensure they meet all relevant standards. Families, schools, governments, and our society as a whole must together shoulder the responsibility. We will advance the coordinated reform of medical services, medical insurance, and the medicine industry. This year, we aim to realize full coverage of the serious disease insurance scheme, and government funding for the scheme will be increased to reduce the financial burdens of more people suffering from serious diseases. The central government will allocate 16 billion yuan to be used in both rural and urban areas for medical assistance and subsidies, an increase of 9.6% over last year. We'll merge the basic medical insurance systems for rural and non-working urban residents and raise government subsidies for the scheme from 380 to 420 yuan per capita per annum. We'll expedite the building of a nationwide network for basic medical insurance so that medical expenses can be settled where they are incurred. We'll see that more cities participate in piloting comprehensive public hospital reform. We'll move faster to train general practitioners and pediatricians. We'll carry out trials for tiered medical services in around 70% of prefecture-level cities. Increase basic annual per capita government subsidies for public health services from 40 to 45 yuan. and see that more medical resources are channeled toward the community level in urban areas and toward rural areas. We'll promote the development of traditional Chinese medicine and the medical traditions of ethnic minorities. We'll improve the supporting policies to complement the decision to allow all couples to have 2 children, to see that the health of our people is protected. We'll speed up the development of unified and authoritative safety monitoring systems for food and pharmaceuticals and reinforce every line of defense from the farm to the dining table. This should ensure that people have access to safe food. We will build an extensive and tightly woven social safety net. We'll continue to raise basic pension benefits for retirees. Local governments need to fulfill their duties to ensure that pension benefits are paid on time and in full. We will work out methods for putting a portion of state capital into social security funds. Initiatives will be launched to pilot comprehensive reform of the elderly care service industry. And progress should be made in developing a variety of forms of combined medical and care services for the elderly. Per capita subsidies for subsistence allowances in rural and urban areas will be increased by 8% and 5% respectively. We will speed up the development of social assistance systems so that people with urgent needs have access to assistance and support. Helping society become a caring and warm one. We will promote the reform and development of the cultural sector. We'll draw on the Chinese dream and socialism with Chinese characteristics to build consensus and pool strength, nurture and practice the core socialist values, and make greater efforts to foster patriotism. We'll carry out an initiative to encourage innovation in philosophy and the social services. We'll promote the development of literature and art, the press and publishing, radio, television, and film, and archiving. New types of Chinese think tanks will be developed. China's cultural heritage will be better protected and put to better use. We'll support popular activities which promote cultural and ethical progress. We'll work to foster a love of reading in our people, popularize scientific knowledge, improve the overall caliber of the population, and raise the level of civility in society. We will work to deepen cultural exchanges with other countries. We'll see that more public cultural resources are made available in rural and urban communities. We'll promote the creative development of the cultural sector. We'll enable more households to enjoy digital broadcasting. We'll make thorough preparations for the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympic Games and Paralympic Games. We'll encourage new trends in popular fitness activities. We will strengthen and develop new forms of social governance. We'll promote urban and rural community development and encourage democratic consultation at the community level. We'll support the participation of people's organizations such as trade unions, communist youth league organizations, and women's federations. We'll move faster to untie industry associations and chambers of commerce from any connections they still have with the government. Social organizations will be developed and regulated in accordance with the law, and support will be given to the development of specialized social work and volunteer services. We'll further develop the social credit system. We'll ensure the full protection of the rights and interests of women, children, and people with disabilities. We will work to raise public awareness of the rule of law and see that a good job is done in terms of legal aid provision and community corrections. We'll improve the national system for cybersecurity. New ways will be developed to improve the mechanisms for maintaining law and order. An IT-based system for crime prevention and control will be developed, and violent terrorist activities will be dealt with severely. All these steps will ensure people's security. Nothing is more valuable than life, and ensuring public safety is of paramount importance. We must continue our efforts to ensure workplace and public safety, improve safety infrastructure, and build capacity to prevent and mitigate disasters, enhance monitoring, early warning, and emergency response mechanisms, improve meteorological services, and deliver a good performance in seismology, surveying, mapping, and geology, and improve and implement the system of accountability, management, and evaluation for workplace safety, ensure that both CPC committees and governments are held accountable. And those who fail to uphold safety standards are held accountable.
Number 8, improve government functions, strengthen our administrative capacity, and deliver quality government services. The most formidable tasks demand the greatest sense of mission. Faced with complex tasks of reform and development, we in governments are at all levels should follow the new vision on development in our work, bear the weight of finishing building a moderately prosperous society in all respects on our shoulders, keeping people's well-being at the forefront of our mind, and build a law-based, innovative, clean, and service-oriented government. We will ensure that all government duties are performed in accordance with law and that all government activities are carried out in line with rule of law. Government at all levels and their employees must strictly abide by constitutions and other laws. In their work, they must carry out all statutory functions and duties and may not do anything that not authorized by law. Will actively promote the legal consultation system. We intensify efforts to make government operations more open by using new media, including Internet, to respond in a timely manner to social concerns and inform the public about what government is doing. We in government at all levels must, as required by law, subject ourselves to the oversight of People's Congress at the same levels and their standing committees. We should willingly subject ourselves to democratic oversight of CPPCC committees, public oversight, and to exercise power in an open and transparent way. We'll ensure that government duties are performed with integrity and intensify efforts to fight corruption. We'll see the leading party and government officials at all levels assume full responsibility for improving party conduct and government integrity. We will severely punish all types of behavior that constitute flagrant violations of discipline. Steps will be taken, such as reducing or limiting certain powers and adopting new forms of supervision to eliminate room for rent-seeking and eradicate the breeding grounds of corruption. We ensure that efforts to improve party conduct and government integrity are extended. We'll ensure the officials perform their duties diligently and government dimensions are fully implemented and government's public credibility is improved. We'll practice the 3 stricts and 3 honests, become more aware of the need to uphold political integrity, keep in mind the bigger picture, and improve conduct and competence in order to become contingent of top-performing public servants with a good command of professional expertise. We will fully execute all policies and tasks without fail. We will improve oversight and accountability systems and show zero tolerance for those who are on government payroll but do not perform their duties. We'll improve incentive mechanisms and mechanisms to allow for address mistakes, supporting and motivating those who are committing to carry out reforms and make innovations. This will help ensure that our officials will want to act and are not afraid to act and are able to act. The remarkable achievements over the past 30-plus years are a result of actions of our people and our officials. From top to bottom, success belongs to those who share in one purpose. We will keep both the central and local governments fully motivated. Localities which work diligently and notable achievements will receive greater incentives and support in terms of development funds, land designation for new construction projects. We will encourage all localities to conduct their work in light of their particular circumstances and create a motivational sense of competition in pursuit of development. Fellow deputies, all people of China are of one family. Helping the people of all our ethnic groups to live together, share in common cause, and develop in harmony is in the fundamental interests of us all. We will stick to the Chinese way, the right way of managing ethnic issues. uphold and improve the system of regional ethnic autonomy, follow closely the party's policy concerning ethnic groups, facilitate the development of a social structure and community environment in which different ethnic groups are integrated, will promote interaction, communication, and integration between ethnic groups, implement differentiated policies in support of development of areas with concentrations of ethnic minorities, protect the fine traditional cultures of ethnic minorities, will step up support for development for ethnic supporters with smaller populations, and improve lives of people, and will ensure that all people of China work together for a moderately prosperous society. We will fully implement the party's basic policy on religion, regulate religious affairs in accordance with the law, promote harmonious relations between religions, and see that religious leaders and believers are actively involved in promoting economic and social development. We will implement our policies on work related to overseas Chinese, work in accordance with the law to safeguard lawful rights and interests of overseas Chinese nationals, will give full expression to their unique strengths and important roles, rally their support, and strengthen the bonds of attachment of all Chinese. Fellow deputies, last year saw significant progress in strengthening national defense and the armed forces, and this year, in keeping with the party's goal of building strong armed forces under new conditions, will boost efforts to build the armed forces through political work and reform, run them by law, will make the military more revolutionary, modern, and well-structured, and safeguarding national security, will uphold the fundamental principle and institution of the party of having absolute leadership over the armed forces, adopt the military's meeting on political work. We will strengthen in a coordinated way military preparedness on all fronts and work meticulously to ensure combat readiness. We'll step up development of logistic and equipment. We'll make steady progress in reforming military leadership and command structures and launch reform of the military size and structure as well as its policies and institutions. We will ensure law-based development of the armed forces. We will modernize the armed police force. We will promote close military-civilian integration in important fields. Mobilization for national defense will be strengthened. We'll develop defense-related science, technology, and industries. Governments at all levels should give full support to strengthening national defense and armed forces. We should strive to forge an ever closer bond between the military and the government and between the military and the people in this new era. Fellow deputies, we will implement both to the letter and in spirit the principles of one country, two systems, the people of Hong Kong governing Hong Kong, the people of Macau governing Macau, and both regions enjoy a high degree of autonomy. We will act in strict compliance with China's constitution and the basic laws of Hong Kong and Macau special administrative regions. We are convinced that Hong Kong and Macau will maintain long-term prosperity and stability. We'll pledge our full support to achieve executive and governments of two regions. We'll give expression to distinctive strength of Hong Kong and Macau and elevate their positions and roles in China's economic development and opening up. We'll deepen cooperation between mainland and these two regions and help Hong Kong and Macau strengthen their competitiveness. We believe that Hong Kong and Macau will achieve their long-term prosperity. We will remain committed to our major policy on Taiwan, uphold the 1992 consensus as the political foundation, oppose separatist activities for the independence of Taiwan, safeguard China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, maintain the peaceful growth of cross-strait relations, and safeguard peace and stability in the Taiwan Straits. We will strive to make progress in cross-straits economic integration. We will encourage cultural, educational, scientific, and technological exchanges, and help strengthen exchanges between ordinary people and younger generation between both sides of the strait. Guided by the principle, we believe that straits belong to one and the same family. We will share our fellow countrymen and women in Taiwan, both with the responsibility of the Chinese nation and opportunities for development, and jointly build a cross-strait community of common destiny. Fellow deputies, we will continue to hold aloft the banner of peace, development, cooperation, and mutual benefit, practice in distinctive vision guiding China in conducting its diplomacy as a major country, safeguard its sovereignty, security, and developmental interests. We will host the G20 Leaders Summit to promote innovative growth and improve global economic and financial governance. We'll step up coordination and cooperation with all other major countries and develop with them relations characterized by positive interaction and win-win cooperation. Guided by the policy of amity, sincerity, mutual benefit, and inclusiveness in developing relations with our neighbors, we will work with other countries in our region to maintain lasting peace relations. We will deepen South-South cooperation, promote common development, and safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of developing countries. We will participate constructively in solving global and sensitive issues. We will move faster to strengthen our capacity for safeguarding China's overseas interests and protect the safety of Chinese nationals and legal persons. China will work tirelessly with the rest of the international community to promote the peace and development of all of humanity. Esteemed deputies, our future can be secure only through hard work. Let us rally closer around the CPC Central Committee headed by General Secretary Xi Jinping, and working together and remaining of one mind, strive to fulfill this year's economic and social development tasks and targets. Let us thus make a good start to decisive stage of finishing building a moderately prosperous society in all respects and make new contributions to turning China into a modern socialist country that is prosperous, strong, democratic, culturally advanced, and harmonious, and to achieving the Chinese dream of rejuvenation of the Chinese nation.